Welcome back to Naptime Sports Talk Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to our latest episode. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to Naptime Sports Talk Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to discuss the Minnesota Vikings' defeat against the Baltimore Ravens, 27-19. The Vikings moved to 4-5 on the season, as the Ravens moved to 4-5 as well. Tough loss. A lot of mistakes this game that I think could have been prevented. Go to the two interceptions that were thrown. Honestly, it probably should have been 3 interceptions. That Roquan Smith interception at the end of the game that was called incomplete should have been interception. I thought, in my mind, I thought the play was pretty ticky-tacky, and we've kind of seen that all year so far around the refereeing in the games and then some of these quick reviews. But hey, on the field, it was an incomplete pass, so we're not going to hold that on McCarthy there. But 2 interceptions, the first one where he threw it up to Jefferson, and I think Jefferson just kind of got locked up a little bit and was not able to get to the ball. Going back to that play on the broadcast too, they talked about how McCarthy had pretty much a clear lane to rush up the middle too, and he decided to just kind of chuck it up down the field and take a shot. End of the day, it's not a terrible interception with, kind of being more like a punt, but still, like when he has those lanes, he's got to take those rush lanes. He could have potentially got us a first down there and extended the drive. And then his second interception, just unfortunate play with Justin Jefferson getting kind of crossed up a little bit, tangled up in the feet with the defensive back there for the Ravens, and then he fell down and the Ravens just picked it off. So just a couple mistakes that, I can't really pinpoint it on JJ. Tough interceptions for sure to have it in those moments of the game. I just go back to that second interception too, and, it's 3rd and short. I think it's 3rd and 1. And it just goes back to something I've been seeing, a common thing with the Vikings is these 3rd and shorts, and they're one of the worst teams in 3rd and short in the NFL, and that's pretty concerning. A lot of times they are taking shots down the field when they could just get a couple of yards to just sustain the drive and keep the drive going. So that's something that kind of comes down to coaching too. But man, it gets a little frustrating when that keeps occurring in these games. So I don't know if that's something KOC can do to improve within himself too, is have a little better play calling in those situations, or the personnel issue if he just doesn't feel confident with our ability to pick up that extra yard or a yard to sustain the drive. But in my mind, when you're at the 45, 50-yard line, you pretty much have two downs to make that drive and get a yard. So we'll see how that progresses as the season goes on. But something that I've kind of been seeing throughout this season has been a little concerning with me with some of the play calling and just little blunders. It kind of seems like that keeps on affecting the outcomes of our games. So, statistically speaking, the 2 interceptions McCarthy had, he had a lot of throwing opportunities. He had 42 pass attempts, and overall his day was pretty up and down. A lot of those yardage was in kind of the last quarter there, trying to catch back up, a lot of passing attempts. But, just through the game, I continue to see just inconsistency in his throwing over guys, throwing a little short. So I think that's something we're going to continue to see as he develops. That's something that we knew. If you go back to not episode 1, but season 1 of this podcast, we talked extensively on the quarterbacks in that draft class, which the Vikes ended up taking McCarthy. And that was a thing I always said from the beginning, is I thought he needed time to develop. And we're in year 2 now, and he's played 4 football games for the Vikings due to injury last year and injury this year. So he still needs that time to develop. There's going to be growing pains with him. It's not going to be perfect. And I think we just need to be patient with him. He's still a young kid, only 22 years old, turning 23 here in January. But, just things I just want to see him improve on is just the touch passes a little more. You see a lot of passes in the game today where he's having passes batted down at the line of scrimmage, nice plays on the defensive side of the ball, but also I feel like if he could air it out over those defensive linemen instead of just bullet passes all the time, that he might be able to complete a little more passes, especially in those situations. But going back to just statistically speaking, Jalen Naylor had a nice game for us with 124 yards, 5 catches for a touchdown. Just something that was a little concerning with me too as the games progress is the amount of targets that Jefferson had thrown his way, but we only were able to complete 4 passes to him for 37 yards. This is not acceptable. They got to do a better job of getting him open. Obviously, some of those were passes that, a couple of them, 2 of them were on the interception that were thrown up, but his longest catch of today was 11 yards. And then Addison, same thing. He had 3 catches for 35 yards on 11 targets. So we just need to see more completions throughout the game. And overall, you kind of look at the first 4 games McCarthy has played so far, and it's been pretty up and down. So a lot of growing pains, and it's going to continue to happen with the growing pains too. I don't think that's something that's just going to magically go away. So as he continues to learn here as the season goes on, I just want to see a little more with his passing, completing more passes, having a little more touch on his passes, and not always just relying on that bullet pass all the time. So that's something that he continues to show a need to develop as the season goes on and as he develops his own game. So next week we have the Vikes. They're playing at home versus Chicago Bears. So that will be a big division game there. Hopefully the Vikes can get the win. I know the Bears went on to improve their record to 6-3 today. But down the stretch here, we got the Bears, Packers, Seahawks, Commanders, which now they're out with Daniels. They got Cowboys, Giants, and the 2 tough games are at the end of the year, the Lions and Packers. I'll say a lot of winnable games in this stretch of games. The Bears will be tough, the Packers will be tough, Seahawks will be tough. Commanders, Cowboys, Giants, those are 3 games that we could for sure find a way to win, but we'll see what happens. We're 4-5, and there's not a lot of margin for error at this point if the Vikings would like to make the playoffs. So we'll see how they continue to do during this stretch and see if they can improve on some of the things that we're continuing to see just overall as a team too. And we can't just blame it all on McCarthy. The quarterback gets blamed a lot for things that happen in games, and that's not completely fair. I thought the Vikes did a lot today to kind of shoot themselves in the foot. At the end of the day, when you turn the ball over 3 times, and the one was the Miles Price fumble on the kick return, I think that was a huge momentum changer. Gave the Baltimore Ravens the ball right in prime field position to go down and put 6 on the board. So, and they capitalized on that and did put a touchdown up on that one. And then just going to penalty-wise, I think we had 12 or 13 penalties today. I think it was for like 105 yards of penalty yardage, which really killed us today too. Yeah, 102 yards in penalties. It's just not going to get it done either. Like the amount of false starts we had today, I can't tell you how many there were, but we're at home. We shouldn't have false starts at home. Like that's just unacceptable. And that just tells me guys on the line are cheating because they're getting beat. So they need to do a better job too in that. And, also just kind of talking about the Ravens, they're a 4-5 record, but they're way better than a 4-5 record. That's a tough team that we just played. And at the beginning of the year, I picked the Ravens to win the AFC North division. So, they had Lamar hurt there for a good stretch of games too, and they're finally kind of getting healthy. So we kind of caught them right at the wrong time where they're a really tough football team to play. So, and you can kind of see as they got up on us in the second half there, they can just run the football at will, and they did a nice job with that. So, but yeah, we'll see what happens as a Vikes year here progresses. We're coming down to the wire here. With the amount of games left, it's going to be week, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll go back and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games left for the end of the season. So we will see what happens and if the Vikes can find a way to make it into the playoffs. But they have a pretty uphill battle to get to that point. Right now, if I had to project the rest of the season, let's see. I think we're probably gonna drop the next two. The Bears are really hot right now, so I can see us going the 4-6. The Packers at Green Bay, that'll be a tough game. Not saying that we can't win there, but Packers are a pretty hot team right now too. I think we're going to probably maybe go 1-1 in this stretch. So maybe a win versus the Bears, loss to the Packers, or loss to the Bears, win versus Packers. I can kind of see that. So maybe at that point we're 6-6 or 5-6 there. The Seahawks are pretty high right now. I think we're probably going to drop that. So I'm going to have us go 5-7. A win versus the Commanders. I think we can go there and beat the Commanders. So that'd be 6-7. Cowboys. They're it's going to be on Sunday Night Football too. So I'm going to go 6-8 on that one. Versus the Giants, I think we're going to go squeak a win out there. Move the 7-8. Then I think we're going to drop probably the last two games. I think the Lions are going to have our number in the next game we play them. They're going to be pretty PO'd off of the loss there from us last week. So yeah, so I think like 7-10 might be a record projection. I think the Vikes could finish out the rest of the way. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully they can find a way to squeak in the playoffs. But like I said before, I just think this year is going to be, it's, the amount of injuries we had in the beginning of the year is very hard to overcome. And, with the growing pains we're going to have from JJ McCarthy, I think there's going to be a lot of ups and downs as the season goes. And again, like I said last week, we need to be patient with him. I know it's frustrating and it's hard to watch, especially when we have a very talented roster. And we're putting a lot on the quarterback position to help get us back in the playoffs and, ultimately win a Super Bowl. But the Vikings, just in my mind, they're just not at that point right now, unfortunately. So we'll see what happens the rest of the way. But yeah, so as the year, kind of wraps up, we will be doing more talk about the off season with free agency. The Vikes are going to have interesting free agency and offseason this year because of the cap space situation. They're going to be over the cap, so they're going to have to be creative to find ways to get out of that. But my favorite time of the year is the NFL draft. This year, the NFL draft is on my birthday, actually. So the first round is on my birthday, which will be exciting. But so I just kind of want to go over something with you all. I know you all know how much I love NFL mock drafts, doing mock drafts myself, but I just want to go over a mock draft that I saw recently, and actually it was this past week. So this is going to be where the teams are for picks right now is going to be dependent on how this rest of the weekend goes. But yeah, I just kind of want to go over one for you. This is from CBS Sports. Ryan Wilson, he's a draft analyst on there. He's got some pretty good drafts. I like to go over and see what he does. He can be a little bold sometimes, but I feel like after this weekend we have cemented a QB1 in this NFL draft, in my opinion, and that's Fernando Mendoza, and he actually has him going number 1 to the New Orleans Saints here. So Mendoza has had a tremendous year. He gets transferred from Cal over to Indiana, and Indiana has been an extremely fun football team to watch this season. They just had a crazy game versus Penn State this weekend. If you haven't seen the play, go watch the game-winning touchdown by them. What an incredible throw, and just an incredible play by the wide receiver, honestly, to get at least 1 foot in the back of the end zone down. So go watch that play because it was pretty nuts. But yeah, so Fernando Mendoza, he has going number 1. Then he has Ty Simpson, the quarterback out of Alabama, who's really emerged on this year. This is his first year starting in college football. Ty Simpson was a 5-star prospect coming out, and he kind of sat there waiting at Alabama for his turn. So he's had a really impressive season. And Wilson writes up in his little analysis here that Simpson has a big arm pocket passer, and I think that's right on the money. So he's a pretty strict pocket passer, but he's got a big arm and can make a lot of throws. So he's a guy that kind of emerged on this season. We didn't really know beginning of the year what he was going to look like, or he just kind of came on as the season progressed. But that's Ty Simpson of Alabama. He has him go to the Cleveland Browns. and that's actually from a mock trade he has for the Tennessee Titans moving back, and then the Browns getting their quarterback with Ty Simpson. The third pick, he has Dante Moore, another quarterback out of Oregon. He's another guy that has kind of really come on this year. He actually started as a freshman. I think he was at UCLA. Don't quote me on that. I might be wrong. But I think he played at UCLA as a freshman, then kind of took some lumps there. He has a lot of talent, though, to Detroit, Michigan. But then he went into he sat on the bench last year behind Dylan Gabriel at Oregon, and then he took over the starting job this year. So he's been having a really terrific season, too, this year for himself, but that's another guy to kind of watch as the college football season continues to go. But I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I just kind of want to talk about different prospects that have really kind of emerged as a draft prospect, or as the draft has gone on. Carnell Tate, man, he's a wide receiver at Ohio State. He has him going number 5 to the New York Giants, and that would be a nice pick for the Giants. If for some way, say the Vikes were to move on from Jordan Addison, maybe trade him this offseason, or, who knows? I don't think they're going to extend him when the time comes. Carnell Tate would be a nice guy to get at wide receiver, so who knows what the Vikes will do. But in this draft, they have the Vikes actually picking at 15th, and holy molies, this pick I would absolutely love, and no pun intended on that one, but the Vikes will probably move up in the position from the loss today. But man, if we had a very, depending on how the year is going, how it finishes out, if this is a kid we got in the draft because we had a tough year, I would be extremely thrilled. And I'm not just saying that, like, there's a lot of guys in the past that we've drafted that have been a little questionable about. But this guy, man, I've been watching him play for a long time now, and because he's actually a guy from Notre Dame, and he's one of the best running backs I have seen come out of Notre Dame in a very, very long time, and that is Jeremiah Love. Man, I think he would add a whole nother element to the KOC offense, and just our inability to run the football was very telling today. We struggled to run the ball. This kid is electric. He can pass, he can catch the ball in the backfield. He is extremely elusive. He has track speed. He can pick up blocks. He's a total package. And if we had a tough year and we ended up with Jeremiah Love out of the draft, I would be completely thrilled. Now, I don't think Love is going to fall to the 15th pick. I think the Vikings would probably have to get him anywhere probably from pick like 8 to 12, basically. I think that's kind of where he would maybe go. But he's a very, very potent player. And if you have not seen him yet, go watch the Notre Dame football game on Saturday or whenever they play. Watch this kid, number 4, Jeremiah Love. He is special. So if we somehow found a way to get him, I would be extremely happy. Some other guys to kind of think of too is just if they did say lose out on Love and they went more of a cornerback perspective. Mansour Delaney transferred from Virginia Tech over to LSU this offseason. He's had a really tremendous year, and he's a good corner. I would like to have him too. And then Jermod McCoy out of Tennessee. He's actually been hurt all season. I think he had a ACL injury in January of last year, so he has not been able to play. But when he has played, he is pretty impressive, and he's a guy that I would be excited to get the talent of as well. So those are just some guys that I kind of want to maybe keep an eye on. Avion Terrell, cornerback too, out of Clemson. I would say any corner is really on the table for the Vikes this offseason in the draft if they did go that direction. But yeah, those are just some guys to kind of watch out for as the rest of the college football season progresses here and goes on. But yeah, we'll see what happens with the Vikes the rest of the way. I know it's been a very, very stressful or not stressful, but well, I guess it could be stressful. It's been a very frustrating season, and I get that. I understand that. At the end of the day, though, I still think we got to be patient with J.J. McCarthy, see how the rest of this year goes, and maybe give him through next year. And if he's not the guy, well, we're probably picking pretty high. And that quarterback class coming out next year looks pretty tantalizing, pretty special. So I think McCarthy doesn't pan out, then you just throw the dart at another guy on the board, because so that's kind of how it happens with quarterbacks. Unfortunately, you throw a dart, you scout, you try to pick someone that's gonna fit your scheme and you think you can mold, but sometimes it just doesn't always work out. So we'll see what happens. Not calling him, not saying that he's not going to work out, but there's a lot for him to build on. But again, he's still a young, only 22-year-old kid. He just needs the playing experience. So, well, that's the podcast today. Oh yeah, and DC, he will be back with me. I just want to get one out quick. My little daughter started to dance, so I have my newborn here with me, but she's taking a nap. So just want to get a podcast out. Big D's been busy with deer hunting this weekend. So Big D, I hope you are having fun deer hunting, and I can't wait for you to get back on the pod. And yeah, all you hunters out there, just stay safe and bring home some Venny. All right, till next time, Skol Vikes. Thank you for listening to our episode. Be sure to give us a follow on Instagram and X at Naptime Sports Talk Podcast for content related to the pod. Thank you for the support.